All right, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Shane, you good?
Yes, we are good.
Okay, here at SEC Media Days, the most knowledgeable of all knowledge when it comes to SEC lineman play, Cole Cubelic. I don't even know how
Just lineman play?
Well, the most knowledgeable on lineman. I don't trust anyone on lineman other than you.
Good, thank you.
Because none of us know what the hell we're
That's
looking
totally
at.
fair. That's why I don't talk about kickers and punters.
Right.
What the hell they're doing?
Now, with that being said,
By the way, I saw a top 100 football player list the other day in America, like top 100 college football players going into the season.
Right.
And this guy had a kicker and a punter, 99 and 100. And I was like, immediately off the page. We're done with this guy. Out. If you can't find 100 more players that are better than any kicker and punter, get out. We're done. Sorry. Nothing against kickers and punters, but like they're not playing football. Like it's just no.
Did y'all ever do them drills? I was just thinking, they always had like offensive line or defensive linemen back there, and they would punt, and if you could catch it.
Oh, yeah. I think we did that under Tuberville one time. The best thing that we did, though, is Rick Trickett, our offensive line coach under Terry Bowden, we would go do pass rush drills before practice, and he would bring the walk-on kickers to do the speed rush around us. So you got these guys that are 6'5", 330, and 6'6", 325, and these little 5'11", 180-pound kickers running around them. And by God, you got your hands on them. I mean, it's just like literally picking them up and shaking them. It's just those guys, I don't think they like that very much. But
I was listening to you, I think it was on JOX. You're on so many platforms, it's hard to keep track.
It's too many. It really is.
But recently you were telling us about, I think it was when Tommy Tuberville came in, and they promised they'd go easy, or I think it was year 2 maybe, and they promised they'd go a little bit easy on you guys, and you basically made you go 2-a-days.
So year 1, they completely ran us into the ground the entire offseason. They were trying to run guys off. I think we had 18 people quit the first day. We just ran gassers and half gassers every day, and we didn't lift. My bench press went from, I was the strongest player on the team after Takeo left, and my bench went from 495 to 365 in one offseason. By God, I could run though.
Yeah.
And I could remember Kevin Yoxall, our strength coach, I would go in. We had some heated face-to-face encounters. I was like, listen, buddy, I got Marcus Stroud and Richard Seymour and Gerard Warren and Cornelius Griffin, like Willie Blade. I know there's track meets out there at UCLA you've been running. I need to start throwing some weight around. And so they just ran us, and that included 2-a-days and everything. So we were dead. Our legs were gone. And a lot of guys complained about it the first few games. So going into 2-a-days, we had this like senior council, and a couple of the guys said, listen, last year our legs were gone. We didn't have energy in the first few games. He's like, that's fine, that's all right. He said, we're gonna do you right this year. We're gonna save your legs. We're gonna save your legs this year. We're gonna do you right. This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna do 2 2-a-days and a 1-a-day. 2 2-a-days and then a 1-a-day. And y'all gonna feel great. We went 13 straight 2-a-days. On the intramural fields. Which like rocks and broken glass, and I mean, it just whatever.
Well, the
best part was the first 2-a-day we went out for. You're supposed to have the acclimation period of like 3 practices and helmets, and we go out there and Eddie Grandstand there, and he's like, "What the f are y'all doing?" He's like, "It's 5:40 in the morning, coach. We got 6 o'clock practice." And he's like, "Not like that, you don't." And we literally didn't know what he was talking about. He's like, "We're full gear, buddy." We're like, "Not on the first day, we're not." Like, we'll call the NCAA, and he's like, "Do it." So we had to go back and put our gear on, and we went middle drill, Oklahoma, full go pass rush, 1-on-1, teams 1 versus 1s. We tackled to the damn ground that day. Yeah.
What's the most weight you lost during them 2-a-days?
Oh, like 12, 13 in one practice, yeah. But then you're trying to like hide it, because if you lose that much weight, you get in trouble in one practice. They make you sit in there and drink like 2 half gallons of Gatorade. You can't leave until you put the weight back on. Nobody wanted to do that. So you go way back in. You wade in with your cleats off, and you leave your cleats on to weigh in after practice. You're like, no, I had them on before practice, dog. No.
But wait, before we get into real content, I got to ask another question. Coach Breimer, shout out to Coach Breimer, was their strength and conditioning coach in high school. Where I think he sat around all day thinking of, what kind of torture he's going to put us through.
Yeah.
What was the worst condition? Like when you found out you had to do this conditioning, you were like, shit, who did this?
No, first off, the winter workouts, they called it the bubble. That was the dumbest shit we ever did, period. None of it was football related. I mean, it was, literally these like side-to-side drills in the gym, or you would lay down and they'd blow the whistle and you'd stand up, and it was just all dumb stuff. And all it was just to try to make you quit, to test your mental fortitude or whatever. But the worst, and I actually got in trouble. I was offensive line coach at Bumpus Middle School one year. I think I made like $350 for that. And I made my kids roll after practice.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have ever rolled, like literally lay on the ground and roll.
Yeah.
It sounds fun, but after you get about 10 yards, you don't know where you are. And that equilibrium goes, and you start throwing up in a hurry. Well, I probably should have been doing that to 7th graders. And a couple moms called in. We're not happy. Rolling was bad, but we also used to do this deal where they took a 2x4 and they put it on the ground. I forget what they called them, but you had to hold the 2x4 and then just push it across the field.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you talk about your lower back being on fire. And just your glutes and your hamstrings, like just your whole lower body was just literally on fire after like 20 yards. And you got to do 200-300 yards of that.
We do it like 40, 60. So we'd sprint 40, run back 60, and then bear crawl 100 back.
Yeah, that's dumb. That's just
that's just torture.
We ran fifths as our conditioning. I said this on accident the other day, and McElroy was like, "What in the hell are you talking about? What is a fifth?" And I said, well, "It's one lap around the field because it's a fifth of a mile, one lap." He's like, "Why would offensive linemen run all the way around the field?" I was like, "Hell if I know. That's what they told us to do." None of it made sense.
The whole reason I bring that up, I don't even want to ask you how many days, because I think I already know the answer, but how many minutes would Shane and I have lasted during those 2 days at Auburn?
Honestly, if you were with the offensive line group or the wide receiver group, that sounds crazy, you wouldn't have made it to flex.
Yeah.
Like, seriously. Greg Knox was the receiver coach. I've never seen humans run more in their life. It's like they were training for cross country. I mean, they would go out there now. See, the offensive lineman was always the first group out, and we would do all these just ridiculous fundamentals and all this. There was one. I'll tell you a good one in a second. But he would take those receivers out there, and their sort of like warm up to just start everything were figure eights.
Figure eight.
So picture cones in all four corners of the end zone, and they literally did figure eights and a cone in the middle of the field. So corner of the end zone, down to the other corner, back, down to the other corner, back, and you're just like, I mean, I remember watching them being like, I'd quit. I'd quit right now. There's literally no way. Those guys were running like 4 or 5 miles before practice, and he just ran them, and everything they did included 10 times the running that was necessary for what they did. Like, he would make them finish every route. So they're running like a hitch, and they had to turn and run all the way to the end zone. And you're just like, not every ball's going to be like that.
Right.
I mean,
Is there like a I know, man, this is not exactly what I wanted to do, but when I think of offensive line, great offensive line, you are the guy that comes up to mind. And so I want to ask these questions just because you've seen a lot. But is there like a contact drill that you used to do that you just, your coach told you to do, and now you're looking back, it's 2024, you're like, why the hell were we doing that?
Well, there's not a drill. I mean, there were some, but I could give you the dumbest moment that I ever had. It was 1999, I think Tuberville's first year. Hugh Nall was our offensive line coach. And it's funny because I was hosting Feinbaum's show 2 weeks ago, and I told this story, and a guy called in. He's like, "Hey, I'm friends with Hugh, and he said that what did you accuse him of?" I was like, "I didn't accuse him of anything. I told you what happened." So we weren't running the ball very well, and he didn't like that, and so he was mad. But he had a fix for it. So it's probably like, guys, this is the middle of the season. Keep in mind, it's probably like week 7, 8, something like that, and a Tuesday or Wednesday practice. So we were full pads, and he said after practice we get together, and there was always something you would work on. So, all right, so-and-so's struggling with his pass sets, so we're all going to do some pass sets. Or we did not have our combos working well, so we're going to get shoulder to shoulder and work our combos. Like, technically, it usually made some sense. So he's like, "Give me 2 lines facing each other." And you knew he was pissed off. And you're just like, okay, good. So I'm starting center. I'm trying to be a leader on the team, and I'm like, I'm up. Here we go. Hart McGarry was the starting guard. He's pop up trying to get right in front of me. And nobody really knows. He goes, 2 lines, damn it. And so we had never lined up in single file lines facing each other. So He acted like we knew what to do. We didn't know what to do. And so it's me and Hart McGarry face each other. He goes, by God, we going to run the effing ball. He goes, and you know how you run the ball, you get tough. And today we're going to get tough. He's like, mano y mano, no mask, go. We just sat there and looked at each other like, what? He goes, no mask, go. And I was just like, go where? He's like, fight, damn it. And I was like, hold on a second. He goes, you two are going to fight each other, and the loser's going to run. And I mean, this is the best part. We had one senior on that offensive line. His name was Gino James. Gino was one of about 3 guys on the team that literally not one person would ever even mistakenly kind of think about messing with, ever. Quietest guy on the team. He's about 6'3", 310, played tackle, way too light to play tackle. No one could ever get past him. And, like, the nicest guy on the team, but, like, you knew he could ruin you if he ever needed to. Like, I mean, in a heartbeat. And Gino, he describes what we're doing. I'll never forget it as long as I live. Gino turned and walked towards the facility and walked up the ramp. Like, he was just like, no.
He's done.
Not fighting my teammates, sorry. Well, we all had more years. So, you know, I was like, we felt like we kind of had to do it. So, sure enough, Hart McGarry and you guys know, like, a football fight, it's basically 15 to 20 seconds of trying to scrap and then who gasses out first.
Yeah.
That's about, and then you roll around and
lay
you're
on
both
each
dead.
other.
Yeah. So we're going, I mean, and I was like, by God, I'm not running. So I'm like trying to eye gouge him. I'm like hitting him in the ribs. I mean, I'm not shitting you. I was like really trying to win the fight, which is dumb because we're in full pads. No one was going to win the fight. There was, I mean, what are you going to knock a guy out with his helmet on? Like, you weren't winning the fight. And perfect example. We rolled around for what felt like about 8 minutes. It was probably 1.5. And we just couldn't breathe anymore. And like, that was the end of it. I mean, that was the end. And it was the dumbest shit I have ever been asked to do on a football field in my life, ever. Number 2, you asked me earlier, we were in a meeting room. This is when Trickett was still there. And so the offensive line, again, like, we would be on the field first, and our meetings always started first. So you would show up to the facility, and there's a piece of paper that had all the position group meeting times. So it'd be like 2:30, 2:45, on the field 3:15 for flex or 3:30 for flex. Practice starts, you know, at 4, whatever. And ours would always be like 1:50. Like, just to be an asshole, ours was always earlier, you know. And we get there, and it says whatever the meeting time for everybody else was, like, let's say 2:30. Ours was 2:15 full gear. Never said anything about gear in a meeting ever before, ever. And Jimbo Fisher's brother-in-law, Buck, was actually our GA. Awesome guy. And he's standing there next to the board. He's got, like, articles, and that's where you weigh in. And we're like, I remember DeMarcus Curry goes, yo, what's this? And he's like, he didn't want to tell us. You could tell. He's like, yeah, he wants y'all to have all your stuff on. And I mean, I'll never forget Victor Riley, God bless his soul. We just lost him a couple months ago. He's like, what you mean all stuff? And he's like taped, cleats, like chin straps buckled. Like, he didn't want to tell it. Like, he's trying to, like, and he's like, what? And like, everybody at this point's like, what the? And he's like, full gear, taped, gloves, cleats, chin straps buckled in the meeting room. Now, guys, this is to sit next to each other in those little chairs that have the folding half desk thing in a room that's like 200 square feet. So we go in there, and we had a bad day the day before. Defense got us. And we went in there, and we watched probably, and you knew it was coming. You didn't know what was coming after. We watched probably like 8 plays. And he throws the clicker, and he's yelling, he's mad, and he's like, God! He's on the field in 10 minutes, but give me a damn scout team. We're going full speed. And I shit you not, we went out there. This is before a 2-a-day practice. We went full speed against the scout team defensive line. And this is an hour before practice starts. And we're just like repping these poor scouts. We're just kicking the hell out of them. Because we knew if we didn't, we'd have to do more of it. Those were the 2 dumbest days of my life as it pertains to college football.
Man, talking about times have changed, you know.
You couldn't do half not even half. You couldn't do a tenth of the stuff they did back then. And then they couldn't do a tenth of the stuff that they did, 6 years before I played. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just, some of it's really good for players, some of it's really good for football, but some of it, you see the product sometimes, and that's what it is. There's a reason you can't block and tackle anymore sometimes.
Well, there was no such thing as concussion back then.
No.
It was a stinger or whatever they wanted to call it.
I can remember the guys that walked around with sunglasses on at practice after a concussion. You did not want to be one of those guys. Because everybody was just like, okay.
Well, speaking of the new age, it is completely different. Just based on what you hear, what you know, what do you think is more difficult for, I don't know if you want to narrow it down to the coaches or just the programs overall, but is it more difficult to identify and sign, bring a player in, or is it more difficult to keep them on campus?
Man, that's interesting. Number one, I think it depends on who you are. I mean, guys, you're talking about a couple $1,000s for a visit. These kids are charging for visits. That's what people don't understand about how this thing really works. I mean, it's out of control. And I would probably say easier to keep guys because at least once you get them there, they're in the NIL program, they're making some money, and there's different ways to finagle some things to kind of keep them happy. At least you can go have that conversation. If they're 8 hours away or whatever, you can't really talk to them and try to talk sense into them and say, hey, Joey, go talk to Billy and tell him what the deal is, whatever. You don't have a leadership council that kind of helps you with that. You're kind of on your own, so to speak. And then now when you're recruiting these kids, it's like you got the workout facility has a lot to say about where they go. It's not just the hangers-on. Agents are actually involved now with where a guy's going to go to school. So it's tough getting a guy now. I mean, I would say probably easier to keep a guy on your roster, even though that feels impossible, because there's so many different things involved with getting a kid out of high school now. I can't even imagine what these coaches have to do and deal with on a daily basis.
Yeah, because I just wonder if that's something that not enough people are discussing is just like talent management, almost like Phil Jackson back in the day. I realize these guys are not Michael Jordan, but on their college campuses, they kind of are. Managing the egos, managing so many different things.
Mike, let's be real. This whole every player just treats the same, that's never been real. Quarterbacks have never been treated the same as the left guard. The tailback's never been I have friends that played with Sean Alexander at Alabama, and they tell stories about how he would just cancel practice. Now, he would literally go up to Mike DeBose and say, hey, guys are tired. And it's period 6, and he'd be like, hey, call them up. He'd be like, guys, I just feel like we need a break today, and this, that, and then they'd go in. It's never been that way. But now, I think it's even more so because you have so many people in your ear and so many people talking to you that, and a lot of the things that they're saying are at least possibly viable. Like, hey, I can get you $250,000 at one of these 4 schools. You have to hit the portal first. If you're interested, go ahead and do it. Or a kid just hits portal, then comes back to school that he is at and says, yeah, I will leave, but it's going to take this for me to stay. And a lot of them are finding out they're calling their bluff and they're not getting what they want. And then they got to go somewhere else. So the managing talent aspect of it's got to be damn near impossible. Mm-hmm. Just because who do they, that's why I think this is a relationship business now more than ever before. Because you can go get NIL at a lot of different places. Okay, so maybe Auburn is $15,000 less than Tennessee. Maybe Georgia is $20,000 more than Florida. It's not. Some of the stories about this life-changing money, okay, maybe that's real for 1 or 5 guys.
Yeah.
We're talking about like 20,000 college football players. So, okay, so if that's all pretty close, why are you deciding to go somewhere? Or why are you deciding not to leave? Or why are you deciding to leave? I think it's relationships. Like the kids, after the first time that a kid goes and makes a mistake, they're going to want to go somewhere that they're comfortable, that they're wanted, and they trust people. Because, yes, they're leaving for more money or different money, but also they're leaving because they were probably sold a bill of goods that they feel like is not real or not what they thought they were going to get. Mm-hmm. And you told me I was going to get 50 catches this year. I got 10. Well, you weren't open. You didn't show up half the time. I don't know what to tell you, Right. You told me I'd be a starting quarterback. Well, you can't read a defense. I can't play you there, kid. Sorry. You told me I was starting left tackle. Well, our walk-ons are running you over. We're going to go with the other guy. So there's so much that goes into it.
Do all kids have agents? Let's just like an Auburn University.
I think most.
Yeah. And if because I always wondered, one of my first jobs, I was a 1099. Taxes. What's that?
That's
until
the
Uncle
part.
Sam
Yeah,
comes.
I can't
I'm like,
even.
When are we going to start hearing stories like this popping up, tax evasion and things like that?
You might hear about it a little bit, but I don't think. Number one, I do think the schools are trying to help because they don't want that coming from their place.
Yeah.
So even though it's not really the school's responsibility, and I know people like to say they've got to get them, they got to get money management for these poor kids. No, they're making the money.
Yeah.
Like nobody's telling me what to do with my money. Like you want to be treated like a grown up, then operate like a grown up. So I don't think Kirby or Josh want it to come out that Georgia's kids are having tax problems or Tennessee's kids are having tax problems because it's going to hurt recruiting.
Right.
It's just going to look bad. So I do think they're trying to help them best they can. I think the collectives are probably helping more than the coaching staffs and like the actual, people in the facility.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't imagine I would have done it. What do you mean? I'm not going to go back and pay. You should probably. I can remember the first time I became a 1099 employee. I was working for Stryker, K&W Associates, which is a division that sold Stryker products. And I got my first check, and it's like, you should put 20% of that away for tax at the end of the year. Okay. Like, or it's just I'll make it up later. And I'll put my last 2 whole checks in there, and I won't have to worry about it. It's like you guys know, like I do, it doesn't work that way.
Right. Now, that being said, though, with all the uncertainty, all the so many new issues popping up, new college football playoff format, new teams in the conference, do you think it makes it more unpredictable than ever? Because I know it's very easy to sit here and say Georgia's got an elite roster.
Yeah.
Texas got an elite roster. But and there's no way anyone can predict this, but one key player goes down here, one key player goes down there. With all these kids jumping in the portal, that used to be a redshirt freshman, a sophomore that's not played yet, but Kirby's coached for 2 years, he can step up. I wonder if when we get into game 14, game 15, game 16, I think that could really give us some unpredictable results, if that makes sense.
I think the very top 2-3% of it's going to be really predictable, but I think the second tier percent is going to be wild to watch. Just look at this league this year. After Georgia's going to be really good. All right, Texas, Alabama probably really good. Tennessee could be great. Could be above average. Texas A&M might be great, might be average. LSU, a lot of it that you really like, but they lost 3 of their 4 best players on defense, and they were a horrible defense last year. You lost 2 first-round receivers and a Heisman quarterback. And your offensive coordinator, by the way, and that's just going to be better or even close. Like every other year, if a team lost what LSU lost on offense, we don't even have a discussion about that offense being good. It's just kind of like, man, that's going to be impossible. But now we're just like, no, their offensive line's really good. The quarterback's been there forever, and yeah, they'll probably be okay. All right, we'll see. I don't know. Like Tennessee, I think Tennessee's in a classification with a couple other teams that what you were saying about injuries, I think there are a couple of key guys that they just can't lose. And I think there's a couple teams like that. I think Florida's like that. And I'm not talking quarterback or edge rusher. I think I don't know if Ole Miss is like that yet or not. Ole Miss there's a lot I don't know about Ole Miss, but I know they got talent. And at the end of the day, talent usually wins you a lot of games. But like you look at Missouri, yeah, they lost a lot, but I love both the running backs that they got. I love Norfleet at tight end. I think Mimbu's the best right tackle in the league. And yes, Blake Baker's gone, but they still have some disruptors up front on defense. And when you can cause problems up front, you can win some games. You can even go a little bit bigger from an entire league perspective. I think we're going to have more good offensive lines in this league than we've had in maybe 6-8 years. And I think the defensive lines collectively are going to be way down. Who are the scary D linemen in the league?
I love Deion Walker at Kentucky.
He's a really good player. Okay, that's one. This used to be rapid fire.
Right,
2 from Mississippi State, 2 from Auburn, 1 from Kentucky, 1 from Ole Miss, 3 from LSU, 4 from Bama, 3 from Georgia. Michael Williams, he might be great. I hadn't really seen it a ton. Like James Pierce is really good, and Tennessee's got 4 D tackles that can play. That's one of the reasons I really like Tennessee. But A&M's got some guys that can rip up front. Like A&M's D-line, really good. South Carolina's an underrated defensive line. They got guys that have played a lot of football and are solid football players. But like Auburn's D-line, Mississippi State's D-line, that's not what we're used to seeing. LSU had 2 scholarship D tackles in spring. So what if like collectively it goes to these good offensive lines are pushing these bad D lines around, and that sort of changes like a shift in philosophy of where it goes. You just never know. But I think there's a lot of uncertainties in all of college football and especially in the SEC after you get past like the top 2-3%. Mm-hmm. Oregon's going to be really good. Ohio State's going to be really good. We know that. That's real. I don't know about the ACC, man. Like, people are like, Miami's this, Florida can't beat them. Dude, they were a game over 500 last year.
Yeah.
And Cam Ward might be the difference maker, but Cam Ward's like, he's like hot sauce. He's like an and one point guard. He kind of just does what he wants to do a lot of times. That doesn't usually win all the games. So I don't know how it's going to work out, but they've collected some talent. I'll give them that. I can't say that they haven't.
Well, with Texas and Oklahoma joining, when we're looking at the trenches, that's one of the things that pops up the most with Oklahoma is that offensive line. Are you worried about that, them coming in the SEC, and especially their schedule, given their schedule? They got a tough one.
It's concerning. The center they got from SMU, I like him a lot. I think he's a solid football player. There's another tackle that they have coming in the portal that I think is going to be solid and be fine, and they'll be good there. But like, just collectively, I don't know how it's going to look. I think Beadenbow's great. I think he's one of the best in college football. Have a chance to be good. I think you have an offensive coordinator in Seth Luttrell that will know how to work around it a little bit, but you can't ever just you can't escape it. And also keep in mind, when that team's been good, they've been pounding you.
Yeah.
And people see, Mayfield and Kyler Murray and Caleb Williams and Spencer Rattler, but when they've been really good, they can pound your ass. And I just don't know if that's going to be what they are this year. Also, keep in mind, tight end is a little bit deficient for them. And whether it's like H-back, tight end, whatever, they usually are really good with an extra blocker. I don't know if they're going to have that this year. So they got the kid from FCS that they say can run and looks pretty good and physical. I don't know. I haven't seen him at that level. They got a really good receiver. The skill's pretty good. Quarterback's got a ton of talent. In the middle of the defense is going to be really good.
Yeah.
I think linebacker's going to be solid. Williams that they got from TCU solid. Billy Bowman's a great safety, but again, there's a lot around that. Oklahoma's one of those teams too. It's like there's a lot of superstar power, but collectively, how's it going to look? I don't really know.
Mm-hmm. Well, Cole, thank you so much for your time. Before you go, can you tell our audience how to find you, how to follow you, and tell them about Cube Show? It's my favorite SEC X's and O's pod. There's not another one that's even remotely close to it. How can they follow that?
Yeah, Cube Show on YouTube. Please subscribe. Also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, social media, Cube Show, and then I'm at Cole Cubelic, Macro and Cubelic in the morning, 7 to 10 on JOX, JOXFM.com. You got an app, JOX app, you can get that. Always listen on the go.
All right, thanks so much, man.
I appreciate you guys having me. Thanks for hopping on our show, too.
Yeah, man.
It's good. It's fun.
If you did one gasser, if I did one, how many could you
wouldn't get through one?
Well, no. I mean, I got all day to work on this. How many could you do by the time I finish my one?
I'm not the one to ask that. My back would get tight. I could probably do 4 or 5, which is actually sad when you think about it, because yours is going to be 8 or 9 hours. I'm trying to think what an actual gasser was. Like a gasser is.
We did the sideline to sideline twice. So,
right, because down and back once is a half.
Is a half.
Okay.
And so down back.
Yeah, I mean,
and there's a crown on the field that you don't think about until you're running it.
I'd say I'd get 2 or 3 in.
2, 3? Okay.
Maybe. I don't know. Because I think you could get it for like a minute, and then a good little break, and then.
God, we need it. We need this. But not today. Not in Texas.
Not in this heat. I thought it was bad in Alabama. I got off the plane yesterday. I was like, God almighty, this might be worse. And I didn't think it could get worse, but this might be worse. Wow.
Oh, right. All right.